Good to be with you today. We're quite glad that you joined these meditations and that you watch them, and you've been telling me that you have and you miss them when we're not able to do that. So thank you for being a part of this. You might remember the last number of weeks we've been going through the Gospel of Matthew, and we're kind of in this section of Matthew where it seems that Jesus is building the church, right? Giving instructions to this new thing we call the church, the people of God, and how to behave as the church. What it is that God might expect out of this thing we call the church. And we continue kind of in that thought this week. So we're in the 20th chapter of Matthew. And at this point, Jesus and the disciples have made it to Jerusalem. Jesus has gone into the temple, disrupted the tables, and disrupted what was going on in the temple. And for our reading this week, we're in the next day. And so Jesus comes into the temple with his disciples, and he's hit by the authorities of the temple, and they ask him, right, by what authority are you doing these things, right? Well, what things is Jesus doing, right? He's preaching about the love of God. He's teaching. He's healing people. He's exorcising demons. He's doing these kind of things, and they want to know, where do you get your power to do this? Kind of, if you read it, it's how dare you come into our house and disrupt it, right? What gives you the right? Who are you? Well, Jesus doesn't answer their question on where he gets his authority. It's one of those kind of things where he says, I'll show you mine if you show me yours, right? Show me by what authority you hold people down, and I'll show you the authority by which I lift people up. And then he tells them this story. A farmer has two sons, and he asked both his sons to go into the field and work. The first son says, no, I'm not doing that today. But later on, the son changes his mind and goes into the field and work. The second son says, yes, indeed, Dad, I'll go out in the field and I'll work for you today, but he changes his mind and does not indeed go into the field. And so he asks his listeners, the leaders of the temple, which one of these do you prefer? Right? Which of the sons do you prefer? And they all raise their hands and they say, of course, we like the one who does the deeds, right? The one who does go out into the field and work. And so it is. We prefer those who do good things. Those who actually go out into the world and work. And Jesus seems to be saying in this little story that there's an expectation from God that this church will be busy in their Jerusalem, be busy in their vineyard, be busy in their community, doing the right thing. That Jesus seems to be saying that God expects us to do things more than just think about things. Now, we're never just one son or the other son, right? We're kind of a mixture between the two. We say the right things most of the time, and most of the time we do the right things, but not always, right? We're kind of a mixture. But it does remind us that there is an expectation of doing. That the church is not just a place in which we gather, in which we give praise, in which we give worship. But the church is not just a place in which we say the right things, believe the right things, have faith in the right things. But the church is also this stepping off place into our community, into the world that we live in, to extend the love of God to everybody we meet. That there's an expectation we do the right things. Which brings up the question, right? What are the right things to do? What are the things, what are the deeds that God expects us to do? And there is some confusion there. Right? For me, it's a matter of doing the things Jesus did, right? Of just simply loving, simply caring, simply having compassion and care. Not worrying about whether people deserve what they have in life, but to lift them all up. So the question of the meditation for today is, what are the right things that God is calling you to do? What are the loving things that God is calling you to do? What are the justice things that God is calling you to do in your setting? Because in the end, how much does our faith really matter if our faith is not lived? Okay? If our faith, it doesn't show in action, is it really a faith? Just a few things to think about, and we'll see you soon.